rebel force has penetrated the shield and landed on Endor.
This is where the fun begins.
A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away.
This is Rebel Force Radio.
Your source for the Force.
Star Wars news and commentary.
With Jason Swank and Jimmy Mack.
I've seen Star Wars 500 times.
Star Wars #1!
This station is now the ultimate power in the universe. I suggest we use it.
Now it's time for Rebel Force Radio.
We would be honored if you would join us.
It's only 2 more RFR podcasts until Christmas. And we got a special one for you this week. I know you think they're all special. We do too. This one's extra special. We are streaming live for our Patreon supporters. That's right. The podcast that you're listening or watching on delay now is being beamed across the internet to our legion of very loyal and wonderful Patreon supporters here at Rebel Force Radio. We thank you all very, very much. It's sort of, these guys seem to get a kick out of these live shows. We seem to enjoy them quite a bit too. So it's our little way of saying thank you by pulling back the curtain a bit as we do, kind of a regular RFR here, but with live calls. And also some great topics to round out the year, like your favorites. Your favorite, Oprah does her favorite things. Well, Rebel Force Radio, we do our favorite things of 2023, but they have to be Star Wars related. Can you imagine Oprah talking about her favorite Star Wars things of 2023? But we do have some news. We want to get to a few things. The Daisy Ridley film, for the longest time, it's sort of been assumed that that's going to be the very next Star Wars story to be told on the big screen. But is it? Some more details coming up in a bit. Also, some Star Wars in pop culture. We want to get to that. Did you catch Adam Driver on Saturday Night Live this past weekend? That was pretty cool. And there was a little Star Wars reference. We'll get to that. But really, the highlight here is... The main attraction is RFR Star Wars Year in Review for the year 2023. Of course, Mac and myself will be looking at our favorites, but you're the main attraction here. The Rebel Force Radio Patreon supporters who we'll put the number up to call, and you can participate. And if we're going to have calls, of course, we'll have Tyler. We'll have him coming up here in just a bit. But so much to get through and so little time here. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for hanging out with us. If you're new to the program, and introductions are in order, my name is Jason. And, of course, with me, as always, my good friend and yours from Chicago, Jimmy Mack.
Hey, Jason. Hey, Star Wars fans. Glad to be back. And now all I can think about is Oprah talking about Star Wars. All right. Challenge accepted. You get a land speeder. You get a land speeder. You get a land speeder. Well, I wonder who Oprah's favorite Star Wars character is today. I don't even
changes.
Yeah, well, yeah, of course, And how often does she find herself binging all the films at once? Probably very often, inviting Gayle King over to sit down and enjoy. This weekend we're doing the prequel trilogy. So
yeah, but you know what? It leads to problems because Stedman is just a dyed-in-the-wool prequel trilogy guy. That's all he cares about.
He's prequel trilogy.
He's prequel trilogy
he was
all
OT.
the way.
From what I understand, Jason, he's OT. That's what I understand.
Stedman's an OT guy. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've seen him cosplay as Mace Windu, various conventions.
Because Oprah makes him do that.
Oh,
she's the prequel,
and she wears the pants, of course. So he's going to do.
She wears the pants. He wears the Jedi robe. That's how that relationship shakes out. But no, that's about as far as we're going to go with that. I do think back to that time she interviewed George Lucas, though. It was like his exit interview from selling Star Wars. Remember that? She went out to Skywalker Ranch and had a sit down with George. And that's where he said, now I can finally just go to a Star Wars movie and watch it like everyone else.
That interview. That was before he was less enamored with the aftermath, right? That wasn't there was the Charlie Rose where things really got dark during the interview.
Yeah, he's sitting around waiting for the call about meetings on the script, and they send him the script. With a Post-it note stuck to it saying, "What do you think, George?"
It was a very nice Post-it. It had my initials on it. It was from my personal stationery. What's funny is that since our last episode was released and we were talking about Dave and his promotion, and we had some theories. Look, we don't know anything for sure. We're just tossing out some ideas and some theories, and people were like, You get your tinfoil hats off, boys. There's no way they would just use and cast aside Dave Filoni. Like, you're crazy. And I'm sitting there going, they did it to George frickin' Lucas. They 86 George. You think that Dave is somehow immune to that? The circumstances are different, I grant you, but yeah, they 86 George with a Post-it, as Jimmy Mack points out.
And I also do want to point out that while Dave Filoni is a great guy and he certainly knows his Star Wars, he certainly deserves to be in the position as an executive at Lucasfilm. He's earned that. But, we revere him amongst fandom. But the general public really doesn't know who Dave Filoni is.
Right.
And, he goes about his day-to-day activities, relatively anonymous. Except a funny story he told me one time where Dave likes to keep it kind of on the down low. And
that's the whole point behind the hat. He started wearing the hat so he could be more, he stopped. The hat is the tell-all. The hat is the Superman, and when he takes the hat off, he's Clark Kent.
Yeah, well, he's become associated with the hat, but he got the hat because he was walking around Skywalker and Big Rock Ranch, and he needed something to protect his pale Pennsylvania skin. But he told me once that he was, he keeps it on the down low. He doesn't really share his career with his neighbors and stuff. But then all of a sudden one day, one of the neighbors approached him and said, "My daughter swears she saw you on Cartoon Network." And, he was obviously doing some promotional piece for Clone Wars back in the day. I think that's just so funny. That,
I remember that. I remember that story now. Yeah, that's before Dave was getting VIP treatment at Pittsburgh Penguin games and doing exclusives for Variety. He was, he was doing some, they would do little promo pieces. He would appear a little bit here and there on Cartoon Network. But he didn't have the profile that he does now. And it's funny how, the hat.
But it still is a profile within our bubble. You know what I'm saying?
Within the bubble of fandom. You're right.
Bubble.
You're right.
He's relatively unknown outside of hardcore Star Wars fandom.
Right. Right. He's not going to get mobbed walking down, 34th Street in New York City. It's not going to happen.
Exactly, unless he's with George Lucas. But George manages to slip and slide through public situations with often relative ease.
I love these things that pop up out of nowhere, like George just photobombing in the background of random photos, everyday photos of people. There was a TV news spot, and there's George just in the background. He happens to be going in the same building as one of the news cameras. It's crazy. He does
really funny
in.
Photo is out there. It's a picture of him. Maybe you can find this, Jason. It's a picture of him in Chicago. I think it was last summer, and he was standing outside the venue where the immersive Van Gogh exhibit was. I don't remember. I can't remember. That was Museum of Science in it. No, I can't remember where that was. But it was some venue downtown, and George is standing out in front of it, and he couldn't look more like a tourist. He's got the shorts on and the little white socks covering up the very. Oh yeah,
this isn't the full body shot.
You don't have the full body.
Let me see if I can get the full body one here.
But because he actually looks kind of distinguished there. When you put it into context, he just couldn't look more like your typical Chicago tourist in the summertime.
Here we go. Thank goodness for Twitter. It's giving us the whole look. Look at those beautiful legs. Look at those. I bet he's got some knobby knees under there too.
But I mean, he just looks so touristy, and of course, with his trademark plaid shirt on. He must have, 1,000 of those hanging up in his closet?
This is the dressier one. This isn't the flannel. This is some nice cotton.
Well, that one looks like fresh out of the package, actually. I can still see the fold marks in it. Melody probably said, "You're not going to Vincent van Gogh wearing that. We're going to get you a shirt." And so they bought it on the way, and he just threw it on. Remember when he was at Star Wars Celebration in 2017, and his shirt buttons were unpopping around his belly?
Yeah, we got some good... That was when you could start zooming in on the iPhone, and I was taking some pictures.
We were
I can see your belly.
Billy had the funniest line about that, if I remember correctly, when we were sitting around in the hotel room recording a podcast. Billy said that the shirt, sometimes they're so tight, like we were wondering if the buttons might just fly off, and the shirt would just fly off of him. And then it would be like Iron Man, where another shirt would just fly in and suddenly be on him.
Pew, pew.
Like the Iron Man armor.
Here's this clip here. We'll play it since we talked about it, but this is pretty funny.
I think it's just
and they use something they call pyroprocessing.
That's not the most interesting thing.
So UIC professor, and there's Lucas in the background just walking behind him, heading into the Four Seasons.
Oh, George!
I
love it,
and it's incredible. So that's a UIC science professor walking the streets of downtown Chicago, shooting a video. He trails the cameraman, and then Lucas just comes into frame behind him, looks at the camera as if thinking, "Are those things here for me?" The camera. And then it's not. So George just keeps on walking. And the professor is oblivious to the fact that he just got photo bombed by George freaking Lucas. I love that.
Yeah. I think George should just run with this and just keep photobombing things. That way it can become a whole... This is like what he'll be remembered for at the end of his career. Just random photobomb memes.
That's interesting. Getting known for something after the prime of your career. I think it could go south. Like, I know Marlon Brando got known for a lot of things after the prime of his career. You don't want that.
No. Yeah, I think photobombing is probably
that's probably a little more George's speed there. Yeah. That's a great one, though. Look, there he is just kind of peeking around there. On a summer day in downtown Chicago there.
With a nerdy professor that he thought was going to turn around and ask him for his autograph.
Yeah. All right, here we are, standing in front of the Four Seasons, and George Lucas is approaching. Let's see how he reacts.
You're George Lucas.
George is like, "Oh my God, it's TMZ." Not quite. This guy's talking about fusions and molecular reactions and things like that.
So fun. Real quick, before we go any further, I want to give a quick shout out to a brand new RFR listener, Jesse. Jesse, working third shift at Mark's. Those of you in the Northeast Ohio area probably familiar with Mark's Superstore. Never know what you're going to find at Mark's. One of the things you might find is a Rebel Force Radio listener named Jesse, and he discovered us, and according to his wife, he's addicted. He can't get enough. So, welcome, Jesse. Great to have you in the audience.
There's a clone trooper named Jesse.
That's right.
I'm just saying.
That's right.
That our listeners are canon. That's what I'm saying. Yes, indeed. So I got a box.
You got a box?
This was a surprise. It was a big old box that was shipped to my house.
Oh.
From none other than our own Jason Swank.
Oh.
So I figured I'd wait until the show to crack it open.
This, a live unboxing of Jimmy Mac's Christmas gift.
Yes.
I played Santa this week and sent out some Christmas cheer to our Jedi Council, and of course, Mac is one of the tops there on the count. Well, I think it's a tie. FJ likes to think he's the top, but we know better.
Oh, I'm not going to read that. That'd make me embarrassed to read that.
Mac doesn't want to read it. He's going to cry.
But look at this.
Some of this stuff is expected, of course.
It's the Wolfpack helmet.
Mm-hmm.
Right. See, it's got the Wolfpack logo on it.
Yep.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Only cost me like $30 at Ollie's. Plus $30 shipping. So it really.
What else is in here? We have things. We have other things. Hey, that gift means something to me because I have the Wolfpack tattoo on my shoulder. See, everyone remember that?
There it is. Now, have you had to have that touched up, Jim?
No, not at all.
Oh, okay. Got a quality tattoo there.
Yeah, Mark Draven. He's the best in the business. And he's always running those tattoo pavilions at Star Wars celebrations and other conventions. Finally, he's arrived. Life Day Chewy.
Holiday special
Life
Chewy.
Day Chewy, holiday special merch. Never thought I'd see the day. And a new droid.
Yes.
I got lots of droids. Can't get enough droids, but I'm actually starting to run out of space for them.
They're
little.
The new holiday Astromechs.
They're little, but when you have 200 of them,
are you ripping them off the card?
Space. No, not yet.
Oh, okay.
Not yet. I'll do that for my own gratification later on. Oh, this is nice. It's a Chewbacca Han Solo Christmas tree ornament. Very nice, Jason.
And it says
Thank you
Life
so much.
Day.
Oh, it sure does. In
Yeah.
the back. In very retro sort of lettering. I don't know if you can see that.
You go.
The thing there. Well, whatever. That's really nice, Jason. I really appreciate that.
Well.
And these are items I shall cherish.
Well, you deserve it. You deserve it. Do you still put up the Star Wars Christmas tree?
Yeah, I think I'm going to put it up for next week's show, which will be our last of 2023. Jason, I think you said we have 2 more.
Yes. I was including this one.
Oh, I see. That's what I thought you were doing, but more indicates additional.
Starting now, people. Starting now.
So we have one more show next week. That'll be our big end of the year Christmas blowout. And there'll be a lot of laughs, I'm sure, because we got, special guests. I'm not going to say who they are, but you'll know. You'll know who it is. You'll be very familiar with the work of one of them for sure.
Yeah.
And it's going to be awesome. So you'll want to be there next week for our final show of the year. And I'll have the Christmas tree up by then. And I'll have the Life Day ornament on the tree.
Awesome. Well, as this is a call-in show, got our official call screener here, Tyler Page. Looks like he's hard at work, just giving a friendly wave. Are you screening calls now as we speak?
I am.
Okay.
One of our favorites.
Oh, okay. Well, we don't want to bother you, Tyler, but it's always great to have you here, and it just wouldn't be a live stream without you. The number to call is 708-866-1737. That's 708-866-1737. And no, Patreon supporters don't jump to the head of the line. They are the line this week on the live stream. So I think we can take our first call. What do you say? The early bird gets the worm here?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Let's talk to Marty from Georgia.
Hey, chut-chut, guys.
Chut-chut.
Hey, Marty.
Good to talk to you again, Jimmy. It's been a minute.
This week's RFR Q&A is a conversation with myself and Marty from Georgia talking about life lessons learned from Star Wars and how we can apply them to real-world situations. Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. Me and Marty go deep.
And it's more than just Yoda quotes, which was the big shocker for me.
Well, we had to discipline ourselves.
Yeah.
We could have just done a whole show of nothing but Yoda quotes, but we try to share the wealth on the Q&A. And so we get some wisdom from Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon. I think even Huang gets a shout out there somewhere along the line. So yeah, that was a good conversation.
Yeah, appreciate you having me on. So what was the theme? It was favorite Star Wars moments of the year, I think.
Well, there's lots of favorites.
What's yours?
That's true. I think for the year, for me, it's either Bad Batch, just because I was such a Clone Wars fan, or just Episode 5 of Ahsoka. Just seeing all the Clone Wars come to life in that moment was just epic and exciting and moving, and I definitely teared up. And my roommate was like, "Are you seriously getting emotional?" I'm like, "Shut up! You're gonna ruin this for me." So
nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. I know. I would have embarrassed myself if others were in the room with me when I was watching that episode myself, because I was feeling a little bit of the warm and fuzzies. Nothing wrong with that.
Absolutely, and it was just great, and it was great to have you guys there for the whole ride of Mando, for Bad Batch, and for Ahsoka. So it was awesome just to be able to react to everything with you guys, and just some of the frustrations I felt with some stuff in Mando and a little bit in Ahsoka. You guys said very well, but you guys always just bring it back to the fact that we're all Star Wars fans. At the end of the day, that's the big thing that matters. So I really appreciate you guys for always keeping the positivity going.
Thank you.
Well, we really appreciate you, Marty. Hey, Marty, what's your favorite thing about being an RFR Patreon supporter?
Ooh, there is no shortage of content for me to listen to at work. When I'm a teacher, so on my break, my planning period, I just put on a Q&A. I'm a little bit behind. I'm doing I think it's Scott St. Louis one right now. So it's definitely just all the good content, getting to know all the people. I don't get in the chat too much on there, but definitely just all the great content, all the good conversations. And it's people who I can identify with because they are just as nerdy and crazy as I am.
Whenever we talk about Patreon, we always talk about the things that we offer. But something that Patreon supporters offer ourselves and each other is a lot of good conversation, really good community, camaraderie amongst the supporters, and it seems like everyone's getting to know each other. So that's what community is all about, and it thrives at RFR
Absolutely.
on Patreon. So we're definitely lucky to have you among the ranks there, Marty. And also keep in mind what Marty was saying about all the content, because me and Swank here are going to be taking a couple weeks off at the end of the year, and if you're jonesing for more RFR, that'll be the place to find it, because even our hardcore regulars have a hard time keeping up with all the content. So there'll be something for you there to listen to for sure, or watch, or what have you.
Well, that's awesome. Marty, thanks very much. Appreciate it. Happy holidays to you and yours. Thanks for the call. Marty was talking about the premiere of Shadow Warrior Part 5 there of Ahsoka in September. And I was looking back at the calendar, the Star Wars calendar, and just seeing, like, my goodness, Bad Batch, season of Mandalorian, Ahsoka. The Bad Batch and Mandalorian were overlapping. We were doing 2 after shows a week. Took a little break from the flagship RFR Weekly podcast to just keep up with that Disney Plus content. I don't know that we'll, Jim, do you think we'll see an overlap like that again? Or do you think that things will pace out a little more evenly?
I don't know if there's consideration given to animated stuff overlapping with live action.
Oh, okay.
I see 2 distinct differences in the both of them.
Do you think they feel it's different audiences?
Yeah, because it is different audiences. Yeah, it is different audiences. There's no question about it. I mean, think about all the hardcore Star Wars fans who never ever cracked an episode of an animated series open. I mean,
I have a hard time
some
calling
real
them
hardcore fans. Yeah.
I have a hard time calling them real hardcore if they've never, they're...
it's animation. Some people just don't, as adults, they can't sit through a cartoon.
Yeah.
I see it a little differently, and I know you do, and I'm sure a majority of our listening audience does, but don't kid yourself. Not everyone tuning into this podcast is watching Clone Wars and Rebels and all that.
No,
stuff.
I know that. I know that. I just think that there would be so much overlap between the people watching that. Now, Mandalorian's a different story. I think that you're dead right about the Mandalorian audience and the Bad Batch audience. Pretty different. Now, the Ahsoka audience and a animated audience, probably more overlap, since Ahsoka has her origins there, and she doesn't mean a whole lot to fans, I think, even those hardcore ones that haven't really delved into that. But that's interesting that they would see that. And I think you're right. I think that if you went into the hallowed halls of Disney, they would say, no, we're not oversaturating this audience. This is a different group. I don't know if Disney's even moved beyond the whole animations for kids mentality, which a lot of people have.
Right.
Even content
That's
producers.
just it. And as far as this, any overlap, I mean, if we're talking about hardcore fans don't care if a streaming series is animated and it's being released the same week as a live action show. You watch
give us more. If we're not doing if we're not doing after shows, give us more. But let's have a new Star Wars show on every night.
It's not a choice. You can just, it's all like, this is Sophie's choice. Bad Batch or Mando. Make your choice now and live with it. No, I don't know. I don't know. But, on the other side of the coin, though, too, I know Lucasfilm does consider animation and live action to be all parts of the big story.
Yeah.
For better or for worse, that's how they go about it. And that's how I think Ahsoka ended up, is basically a continuation of Rebels, is because they see it all as part of one big story. Yeah. But I don't know how effective that is to do it that way.
Yeah, I don't know how realistic it is. I don't know how realistic.
Exactly. Because I think that's just thinking about the hardcore fans.
Right. And they got to strike a balance there. Because we also want Star Wars and the Gospel of the Wars to grow, and we want new fans coming in, and we don't want the cost. And, in addition to just new fans, you got to reignite the passion of some of the fans who've maybe tapped out a little bit, or they're not quite as engaged. So you got to reactivate fandom in some ways. And I think that Ahsoka and some of the buzz coming out of the Hayden Christensen appearance, which our caller was talking about, I think that goes a long way in doing exactly that, reactivating fans that might have tapped out, especially prequel era fans and things like that. So
yeah, and it makes the fans who haven't seen things like the Clone Wars maybe pique their interest just a little bit.
Now here's
so maybe there's I'll watch it. It's a cartoon, but let me just see what all this buzz is about.
Yeah. So here's something. We're talking about our favorite things, favorite Star Wars things, best ofs the year. I just got, in the mail today, I just got my favorite release of Star Wars merchandise of 2023.
Your favorite overall?
Overall.
Oh.
Overall. Since we're on the subject of Disney Plus, and that is The Mandalorian on 4K in these beautiful steel books. So for the first time, Mandalorian in beautiful, full 4K, ultra high definition. So these steel books here are very nice. Crack them open, and you get some collector's cards. You got the discs here with some nice artwork.
Can you go full screen on that? Can you go full screen?
Let's go full
I'm having a little trouble making it.
Okay, so
there we go.
This is season 1. Mm-hmm. We'll open this guy, and we've got
great looking
the discs here. Books. And let me pull out these some of these art cards here. Show you here. All right.
That's great. Oh, so it's the end credit concept art that they showed.
Got IG-11 here with Mando. Of course, this iconic scene where Mando is standing in front of the pram.
Mm-hmm. Not trading cards, though. I was a little disappointed to find out.
They're almost a little postcard sized.
Like a 4x6 almost.
Yeah.
There was Baby Yoda.
Baby Yoda.
Yeah, these are fantastic looking. I would frame all of them. Just frame them.
I agree. They're great. What I have heard, and I've read many reviews of these sets, is that the picture quality and the sound quality is way better than what was streaming on Disney Plus, and that's you get a more consistent bit rate as you're playing off of a disc than if you're streaming online. Plus the size of the files can be much larger. So here's season 2.
Wow.
And
who's in the middle? Is that so? That's Din and Din. Is it a double Din on the front?
It's a double Din. Yeah, I got to tell you. I mean, I love these releases. I'm not gaga over the covers. I think they could have done more. I'd have liked to see more characters. You know, give me a Queel on that first season.
Would you squeal for Queel?
I would squeal. I almost said something else for Queel. So here's the cards from season 2. We got Boba Fett here.
Great.
Backside of Boba.
Tatooine Boba.
Tatooine Boba, yeah, with the gaffy stick and the rifle.
The final shot of the season 2 premiere when we see Boba for the first time.
And here's Baby Yoda sucking some squid down out of his soup bowl.
Sucking squid with Baby Yoda.
And lastly,
that could be the
this
title
is great.
of this episode.
Yeah, that was sucking squid.
Yeah,
and a back shot of Din and Baby Yoda kind of walking into
that's great
adventure. So anyway, these are out and these are available right now through. I'm sure if you go to Best Buy and places like that, you'll find them. And so yeah, seasons 1 and 2. And the reason they're my favorite is because it signals the return of physical media releases for Disney on these Disney Plus titles. And I know that some people have gotten beyond physical media, but if you're anything like me, you want to put these on the shelf with your Star Wars movies, with your Star Wars Blu-rays and DVDs and all that. So I was very happy.
Great review. Tell me a little bit about the bonus content.
Let's talk about the bonus content. Yeah. Not a lot, to be honest. I was really surprised that those great.
That's a trend.
Yeah. A lot of the boutique production companies that they would hire specifically to follow these productions around and do documentaries and create these features, they're out of business. Now, they are never before seen features. We've got Remnants of the Empire, uncover the Imperial designs adapted for the series and meet new villains as the Empire's threat persists. And then Finding the Covert, Part 1. Jon Favreau, Dave Filoni, and crew highlight the craftsmanship behind Grogu, the Mandalorian's arsenal, and the show's practical effects and digital wizardry. I haven't looked at these. I just got them today, right before we went live with the show. My guess is that these are probably shorties, 15 minutes, maybe 20 minutes. I think very quick things. But I thought for sure we would get the Disney Gallery included on these. So I was a little bummed about that. But Finding the Covert Part 2 shows up on the Season 2 disc. Talented artists reveal their inspiration and the designs of the warriors and their weaponry as the Legend of Mandalore expands. And then Designing the New Republic. Jon Favreau, Dave Filoni, and crew talk about the New Republic's evolution and aesthetic in this story-rich period of the Star Wars timeline. That might be very interesting because we don't get a lot of detail about the New Republic. It's there.
So these are all new then?
They're claiming these are new. So, we'll see how long they are and how much meat there is. But I will definitely be watching these over the weekend. So next week I'll have more details on those for everybody.
Well, knowing that just there's new features on it, it's going to drive me out to Best Buy or wherever you get them.
This is how you get Mac to adopt new technology, new Star Wars. He's out the door.
It's always new Star Wars. But Maddie brings up a good point when you talk about collecting physical media. Maddie in the chat, she says, I don't trust the streaming series because they get rid of shows without warning.
That's right.
That's right. She says not Mando, of course, because it's such a big draw, but other shows. I mean, Willow, anyone? Poof, gone. I was like, I'm still thinking about, do I have what it takes to make it through the final episode of Willow? And every time I get myself halfway psyched up to at least hate watch that show one last time, I realize it's off the service. It's gone.
Yeah.
It's disappeared. So that's kind of treating your fans like they're chopped liver or something. And, fandom shouldn't come with such punishment. But yet these entertainment corporations love to punish the fan bases.
It's also a little insulting to the crew and the cast and the people that put a lot of, whether you like the show or not, there's a lot of hard work and effort that goes into those things, and people are real proud of them, and they love to be able to say, hey, did you see me? I was in the Willow series. It's on Disney Plus. Not anymore. And you can't even buy it in the bargain bin at Walmart with the DVDs and Blu-rays. It's like it never existed. That's the problem.
Right. I mean, what happened in the old days when Disney would milk these things for everything they could get out of them and go down any avenue, whether it be physical media or streaming or whatever it takes to get the buck.
Disney was profitable, and, stock was going up, and they were, physical media, and those, like you said, Jim, re-releases of physical media at key times, anniversaries, holidays. It was a huge cash cow, and they flushed it all away for this dream of streaming.
Hard to believe we live in a world where the young Indiana Jones Chronicles is more easily accessible than the 2023 Willow series.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
right.
That's kind of nuts when you think about it.
The Ewok adventure films, the TV movies, those are available at the click of a button,
Well, see, Willow will serve its purpose, though, as being a little tax loophole there for the Disney company where they can claim losses on it while it's still fresh, just like the Star Wars Hotel. So the corporations have figured out all these games that they can play with the IRS, and they don't need us consumers anymore.
Jeff, what happened?
The Disney company is just going to become something that puts things into production and then cancels them. And then they'll be like, oh, look how much money we made. And like nothing will get released anymore. They've discovered the perfect entertainment company that completely eliminates the audience altogether. But still makes money.
Right. All the money. It's brilliant. It reminds me of that movie, The Producers, with Mel Brooks, and it turned into a big musical. They wanted to make the most unsuccessful musical of all time so they could rip off all the investors.
Yeah.
And they make Springtime for Hitler of all, like the most horrendous thing. And it becomes a huge hit.
Yeah, people love it.
It's great.
That's a great one, I mean, Mel Brooks in his prime. But that's the unfortunate thing, the consumer is just getting screwed.
Yeah.
Thanks for your loyalty.
Rebel Force Radio.
Well, definitely more calls and more of your favorites to come, but we do have a few headlines we want to run through right now.
I have good news for you, my lord.
That's good news. Come closer, I have good news.
All right, as I said at the top of the show, for the longest time, a lot of us have assumed that the very next Star Wars story we're going to see on the big screen will be the Rey film. That seemed to be the one that had the most momentum, and there was so much energy behind it. But, Jim, there are reports and rumors swirling that that's not the case.
Well, at least according to entertainment reporter Jeff Snyder. And we played a report of his last week on the show. He hosts a show, he's co-host of a show called The Hot Mic with John Rocha. And Jeff is very connected. He has good Hollywood sources. A lot of Star Wars leaks come through his sources. And what I like about Jeff is that he's not locked down in the fan base. He is a legitimate Hollywood reporter. So he goes looking for the stories. Where he sees smoke, he goes looking for the fire. It doesn't matter what the franchise is. But he does kind of have like more of a nerdy bent to his reporting. I will say that. And last week we played some clip of him saying that information about the Daisy Ridley film was going to happen. There was going to be some sort of information released or an announcement or a press release or something regarding casting coming up before the year is over. After he made that report, one of his sources reached out to him to clarify something that he may have misinterpreted in his report. There's a lot of moving pieces here with those strikes. That's kind of thrown everything up into the air. So Jeff reports on what he believes the next big Star Wars movie release is going to be. And he also says we should be hearing information about it soon.
My Disney source reached out because, they'd heard that last week I'd said, I think that they have their lead for Star Wars at this point or whatever. doesn't sound like that's necessarily the case. But there's a reason for that, right? There's always like the little thing behind the thing. Okay? So this is what I found out. I think that we've all been operating under the impression that the Daisy Ridley movie was going to be the next Star Wars movie. I know I certainly was. And it was like, oh, okay, the Daisy Ridley one is definitely the furthest along, I think, as a director, all that stuff. Anyways, it doesn't sound like that may be the next one. There were rumors that season 4 of The Mandalorian could be turned into a movie. That is what I am starting to hear, that the odds are in that project's favor. Whatever the season 4 of The Mandalorian turns out to be, whoever's in it, what shape it takes, it is looking like that could be the next Star Wars movie. And that may be the thing that's announced before the end of the year. Like, there is Star Wars. I think that Star Wars is anxious to make an announcement. I don't know that it'll necessarily be before the end of the year, especially because the town starts to shut down basically next week. But I think that those Mandalorian season 4 movie rumors, I think there was something to those.
Jim, when you started talking about Jeff last week and sent this clip over, put it up on the notebook, and we looked at it on the Jedi Council, I really was struck by his delivery. I really like that he demystifies the industry a lot. He's very down to earth. He talks about it in very plain terms. He's not trying to necessarily be the smartest, most connected guy in the room. He's very plain spoken. And as you said earlier, he's not pretending to be the biggest Star Wars fan in the world either. He's coming at this from a very objective place. And so I really like, and I hope we have more Star Wars scoops coming from him, because I like the way he delivers it very dispassionately. And but here he is saying that season 4 of Mandalorian, a movie, and it'll be the next movie, not the Rey film. And that's what is swirling. I look and I think, well, okay, is there much precedent for this? And I think of maybe one of the more famous ones, which was X-Files. X-Files was a successful show. It wrapped up its 5th season, and they kept hinting at bigger things in the show. So how do they do it? Well, they got to have a movie because they need the movie budget. Let's show the aliens. Let's show the ship, and and then they brought the characters literally back down to earth and finished out the series over the course of 4 more seasons. So one of the benefits is potentially larger audience and a bigger budget. Mm-hmm. So on that side of the equation, I'm all for it, because I would love to see Favreau, Filoni unfettered by any budget constraints and give us a incredible 2-hour, 20-minute, whatever it is, Mando story with a big film budget. But the other side of it, well, that's the question. Big? How big?
I think the days of producing blockbusters that have a $250 million to $300 million price tag, I think those are over. It's not sustainable. They have to go back to making movies at, maxing out at like $120 million or whatever they used to back in the day. I mean, what did The Phantom Menace cost? Something like that. But sure, that was 30-something years
because
ago,
these $250, $300 million movies, they have to make $1 billion.
Exactly. Yeah, like $750 million just to break even.
Yeah, because you got to figure the marketing costs and all that stuff. And as much as I hate having marketing and budget and all that stuff enter into my mind, because I don't necessarily view things as good or bad or popular or unpopular based on those things. They certainly didn't make me a Star Wars fan as a kid, but they are realities to the business side, and it determines what content that we get. So you're absolutely right. Instead of this being let's give Mando a big budget and make a big movie, it's almost like let's make a movie with a smaller budget and make it a Mando movie because the audience is there, the base is there, and they also know I love Mando, but it's not $1 billion movie idea. It's not even close, I don't think.
No, I don't think so either. So let's just break this down a little bit. I mean, let's consider the reality of Mando season 4 shifting to a cinematic kind of thing. Who would direct it? A lot of people are jumping to the conclusion, oh, this will be the Dave Filoni thing, but I don't think so.
No.
Not for a million years, because Dave is a rookie film director. He's never directed a film. He's directed some cartoon shows and some TV shows, but he's never directed a film. There's a lot riding on the next Star Wars film release. So I think you want to have someone in there who knows what they're doing and who has a track record. And all signs are pointing at Jon Favreau.
Yeah.
He is a guy who has massive success as a major motion director. The Mandalorian is his creation. He wrote the scripts for season 4, so ideally he would be the guy reshaping those scripts into a feature film. His buddy Filoni just got moved into a position at Lucasfilm that could really clear a lot of space for Jon Favreau to work unfettered on a major motion picture without so much studio interference, because he'd have Dave Filoni on board as a producer as well.
Yep.
So there's a lot of upside to that. And Lucasfilm is kind of desperate to get a film out in the theaters. We should be doing the pregame show for Rogue Squadron this week. And we're
Max
not.
still has his tickets.
And hello and welcome to Movie Phone. We are so amazed you actually called us. The phone hasn't rang in 12 years. Press 1 now.
Do you think that it's possible, though, that the decision to push Mando up into a feature film, retool season 4 scripts into this, the decision to do that was done in coordination with the Filoni promotion so that the fans and the Filoni loyalists don't lose it and say, wait a minute, you can't take the Mando-verse film away from Dave. Oh, we're not. No. We're making Dave chief creative officer. He's going to have a huge influence on not just this movie, but all the movies that come out. But it really was to get that A-list director in that slot, Jon Favreau.
I think that it adds up, to me at least, to hear you put it that way. And like I said, they're desperate to get a film in the theaters. They're supposed to have one coming out now, and it's not. And that had nothing to do with strikes or pandemics or anything. Mm-hmm. That was their own mess to deal with. And they need to fix that right away. So, because they have no excuses anymore. And The Mandalorian is a proven hit with fans. It has already had its world building that's already in place. And also they have a story in place too for an entire season that they can boil down into a feature film. What's happening with the Daisy Ridley film is that there is no completed script yet. And the rumors about it starting in April were just simply rumors, nothing more. No script. So I think they're trying to fast track a film. And the best way to do that is by taking the material that has been developed for season 4 of The Mandalorian and get that thing in front of cameras and in theaters as quickly as possible. And because it's a major motion picture release, that could lure Pedro Pascal onto the set. Mm-hmm. And he might have a little more FaceTime on camera. And he's a hot property right now. So why wouldn't you want to have Pedro Pascal leading the way for your next Star Wars film? Yeah, he's already ingrained in the role.
Yeah, I don't know if it was Jeff or the other guy, but I think later on that same episode, they talked a bit about this, and they're looking at the calendar and they're going, I don't know how Pedro would have time for this, but Pedro might not need more than a couple of days on the set for this, if it's a glorified cameo. But
maybe.
This makes a lot of sense. We want to get a movie out there on the screens as quickly as possible. We have dates on the calendar. We already have scripts. All we got to do is just trim the fat and get the best 200 pages, 120 pages, not 200 pages, the best 120 pages that we possibly can. It's an action movie, so it's probably only like 90 pages. And we've got a director. We've got the universe built. We've got the built-in audience. What are we doing? Get this movie made. We got the sets. We got the costumes. We got it all. We just got to add a little extra spice. And there you go. Now, what impact might it have, if any, on future seasons of The Mandalorian? Would it wrap up the series? Would it just build a bigger fan base for a season 5, kind of like X-Files did? Or does it cement those characters in that universe up onto the silver screen, and that's where their adventures will continue from there on out?
Yeah, I think that would be what would happen. It would be the next cinematic property for Star Wars.
Yeah.
Well, that's something they could really build upon. And, really try to do that thing they tried to do, that, copy the Marvel template.
Right.
You can't really do that when all your most popular actors are either dead according to the timeline or dead in real life. I mean, the original actors have aged out. And I'm not just talking original trilogy. I'm also talking a lot of the prequel guys, too.
Right.
So you have to build, and I've always thought, well, you have it in-house with Mandalorian. Just take that and run wild with it. It's a proven success. Granted, season 3 sort of ran out of gas, in my opinion, but they have all the proper pieces there to start fresh and make a fresh story that doesn't require so much of an admission price as far as, well, you have to watch 3 seasons of The Mandalorian, and you have to watch every episode of Clone Wars and Rebels and Ahsoka and Boba Fett and all those shows. I mean, they got to come up with a good entry point, especially if they're going to start a new cinematic thing. They can't just act like it's a continuation of everything that's come ahead of it. They have to give these characters new priorities, new situations, new everything.
I will vouch for Mac here because he's right. He has been banging the drum probably since season 2 of The Mandalorian. That's the future of the franchise on the big screen. Jim, something else that we've been talking about within our own Jedi Council is that the effects of canceling Rangers of the New Republic it continues to haunt this universe. Because there was so much story that was going to be told in there, and that could still continue into Mando season 4 if it's a series of if it's a season of television episodes or if it's a feature film. That we still haven't gotten out from under the ghost of that canceled series.
Myself, I don't want to put too much importance on that, because if it was such a great series and so important to keeping the entire streaming franchise together, I think they could have just spun it off with some other character. It didn't necessarily have to be all about Cara Dune.
I think it was more about dealing with some of those issues that's happening in the New Republic to provide extra context for some of the adventures that were happening in these other series. Because a lot of
I see what you're saying. It's more of like a missing...
Yes,
a missing piece,
right,
as opposed to something. To
put some context around some of these adventures happening within these other series. So I think that's it more than about any one particular character. Jim, I have a note here that you've got an update on our story from last week about Andor making it into the 2024 streaming schedule.
Yeah. This is in the RFR has eyes and ears everywhere folder. This is where this is coming from. Got an email from loyal RFR listener Colin, who says, I went to a local convention here today in a London suburb and spoke to a few guys, notably Dave Chapman, who is the voice/puppeteer for B2 and Andor, among other creatures in the Star Wars universe. He's a lovely guy, and he told me that post-actors/writers strike, the release dates are now being defined as April 24th for The Acolyte, and that will be the next series we see. live action, of course. It's all been moved around, and Skeleton Crew will likely be a summer release due to some post-production issues. Andor will arrive late fall/winter 24. Andor is more or less all in the can, meaning finished, apart from 2 very special, super secretive scenes they still have to film. And then it all goes into post-production. And this guy, Dave Chapman, he's done with all of his puppeteering stuff for Andor as of now. So that's straight from B2's mouth. Marva. Rumor.
So April 24, Acolyte. So Acolyte jumping to the head of the queue on release, followed by a summer Skeleton Crew and a fall-winter season 2 of Andor. Wow.
That's what Dave Chapman, voice puppeteer for B2 and Andor, has to say. So, obviously that's not confirmed. I didn't reach out to anyone at Lucasfilm and float this across their desk. Maybe I should have, but I didn't. So that's just what we're hearing from our listeners. Like I said, RFR eyes and ears are everywhere. And RFR listeners, do not ever hesitate to send us an email if you have a juicy tip or some information about Star Wars currently in production, because we want to hear about it.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So great. Thank you, Colin, for the tip. Oh, you know what? This next one, we couldn't leave this out. It's not great for audio podcasting because you just hear a lot of oh, bam, wham. But it was really cool to see this behind-the-scenes clip that Ariana Greenblatt posted on her Twitter account of her and Hayden Christensen working on their fight choreography. If you're like us, you can't get enough of those two together. We love Ariana, we love Hayden, and seeing them behind the scenes and looking at just how the confidence and poise that Hayden has in these fight scenes, even in rehearsals. I mean, I'm telling you, he's just he's a 21st century Errol Flynn, I got to say. But I like this because I was able to get the full screen video here, so we're going to play this for you.
1, action.
He looks pissed. She's
no
good.
Either, yeah.
I was wondering how much of this were stunt people. Ariana continues to impress. Good acting, too, from both of them. You know, it's not so easy to stay in character when you're doing all this physical activity, and there's some real acting going on there. So, yeah, good for them, man. Good. That's just great stuff. We got to get more Ariana in Star Wars.
Oh, give them a series, man. I want, even if it's just it doesn't have to be a 6-episode commitment. Give us a 3-episode miniseries. Give us a 2-hour movie, something, putting those two back together and giving us that live action Clone Wars. It would be awesome. I know it's easier said than done, but that's going on my Christmas list this year to Santa. At least we get a confirmation maybe in 2024, but very cool stuff. Yeah. We've got a little follow up here. Adam Driver. Adam's got a new movie, this Ferrari movie. He's making the rounds, including Saturday Night Live. And so we've got a clip from that coming up later in pop culture. But Adam still can't get away from the specter and the shadow cast by the sequel trilogy in Star Wars and Kylo Ren. So wherever he goes, questions follow about Star Wars.
For sure. And Adam seems to be very generous with the information that he dispenses and the insight he provides into his experience with Star Wars. And by doing so, he helps us nerds fill in the blanks, especially the nerds who are all wrapped up in the behind-the-scenes stuff like we are. He helps us fill in the blanks a little bit according to his accounts of the history of the way things went down in the Star Wars sequel trilogy. Of course, we never got that making of The Force Awakens book that J.W. Rinsler, the late great J.W. Rinsler, Jonathan Rinsler, wrote, completed.
Yep.
And then it just got scrapped. What a messy situation that was. But Adam's here to talk, and he was there, so he knows what he's talking about. And he discusses, this is great stuff, he discusses J.J. Abrams' original concept for Kylo Ren's full arc. I mean, beyond The Force Awakens. J.J. had a direction he was going with this character. And that direction eventually took a left turn. And Adam Driver discusses not only JJ's original idea, but why it eventually changed.
His idea was that almost the opposite journey of Vader, where Vader starts the most confident, the most, committed to the dark side. And by, the last movie, he's the most vulnerable and weak. And he wanted to start at the opposite, where this character was the most confused and vulnerable. And by the end of the three movies would be most committed to the dark side. So I tried to keep that arc in mind, regardless if that wound up not being the journey anyway, because it changed, obviously, as we were shooting.
Yeah, right.
Right. But I was still kind of focused on that.
When did it change?
With Ryan, he took it into a different direction, but still it kind of still tracked with the character. Then the last one, it changed into being, about them and the dyad and things like that.
And then again, so you
and kind of evolving into Ben Solo. That was never part of it.
That wasn't either?
No. Because Ben Solo, he was Ben Solo from the beginning, but it wasn't. It was never a version where we actually see Ben Solo when I first signed up for it.
Man. Mm-hmm. Well, there is a common denominator to when these left turns are taken, and it seems to be Rian Johnson. I know we got some Rian Johnson fans out there. I like the Glass Onion or whatever the hell it was called, the Daniel Craig detective movies. They were fun. I'm not saying the guy's not talented, but these actors, there's a pattern of them telling stories about the pitch, the ideas behind their characters they were originally told, and then everything takes a big left turn with The Last Jedi.
I don't think it should all be dropped at Ryan's feet, though, because he was totally collaborative with Lucasfilm. He moved to San Francisco and went to the Lucasfilm offices every other week to sit down with their story group and their producers and their executives to bang out this story. And they planted all kind of directions in his head, in Ryan's head. Most notably, they gave him the marching orders to kill Luke Skywalker. That all comes from Lucasfilm. Why do you think Kathy Kennedy was saying things after Rian Johnson directed The Last Jedi about how it was the best experience she ever had working on a film, how he's going to be doing a trilogy next, all of this stuff?
Because he never told her no.
It's exactly. He was a tool. And also the exact opposite of their relationship with J.J. Abrams. Why do you think J.J. didn't come back for episode 8? Because he shut Lucasfilm out and made it more of a bad robot production and used his own people. And Jason, you can attest to this. We heard from marketing people at Lucasfilm who were saying that they were shut out from the set.
Couldn't even go to the set.
PR people. Yep. They were shut out from the set.
Yet J.J. is inviting his friends to the set, but Lucasfilm marketing professionals not admitted.
Right.
Yeah.
So they harumphted all of that and said, well, we can't have this go on for 2 more films, so we're bringing in Rian Johnson, and he'll do exactly what we tell him to do. And that's how that went down.
Yeah.
So we can't lay it all on Ryan because it was a team effort. It was a solid team effort. Lucasfilm was frustrated with the way that JJ ran things his way, the bad robot way, with The Force Awakens, and they wanted to take it all back. That's what it was all about. It was Bob Iger who forced Lucasfilm to bring JJ back after they couldn't work with Colin Trevorrow. Bob Iger had to step in. It's like, God, you can't work with Colin. You can't work with nobody. We're bringing in JJ. And I'm sure there was pushback to that.
Ooh, I'm sure that was not a friendly reunion because I don't think they parted on the best terms.
The Mandalorian was the greatest thing that ever happened because it provided a distraction for Lucasfilm from the sequel trilogy. And as soon as The Rise of Skywalker came and went, they let that film die on the vine. There was limited merchandise with that film. There was limited follow-up with that film. There wasn't even a regular comics adaptation from Marvel for that film. Eventually, a comics adaptation was produced, but it was by some other company as a graphic novel or something. But I mean, all the evidence is right there.
Yeah.
And it points to nothing but friction between JJ and Lucasfilm. And that's why then the whole thing got derailed. Now, one thing JJ did do as he was trying to establish Kylo Ren is being the embodiment of evil is make him do like the most evil thing, kill your own father. Kill your own father. So Adam talks about working with Harrison that fateful day on the set when Kylo Ren kills Han Solo. And it's interesting what Adam has to say about Harrison's overall attitude and approach and everything. And I'd like to address a few things, a few assumptions fans make about Harrison Ford after we hear what Adam has to say.
Harrison was like, you know, it's seemingly from the outside was an emotional thing. It was thing. It was, you know, him and his son and me and our father and all that stuff was coming out in the scene. And I remember we were on this big catwalk that we were shooting it, and it's just him and I, and we're talking, and he was like looking around, and he goes, you know, look what we get to do. Isn't this so great? You know, and I was, you know, I would think that he would be cynical or over it, and it was the exact opposite. He was very emotional and open, and
just as about he was Han Solo's about to eat it. This is what he's saying to you?
Yeah. Like he was so excited to be like how lucky he was to be shooting this movie and this character and like how great filmmaking is. You know, it was very earnest and uncynical and pretty great.
That's so nice to hear. It really is nice to hear. It doesn't come as a huge surprise to me at this stage in Harrison's career. We've seen him get uncharacteristically, at least in public, emotional. I think one of the turning points, Jim, and I'm going a bit way back here, but it was that movie he did with Daniel Craig, the Cowboys and Aliens movie, where he appeared at San Diego Comic-Con, I believe, for the very first time, and got this incredible ovation. That was the first time I've ever seen Harrison Ford stand in front of an audience of fans and get a little misty, a little choked up. And that, to me, I thought was perhaps a turning point where he started to maybe get it, what he does mean to this huge community of not just nerds and pop culture lovers and all that, but moviegoers, people that love movies because he is such the epitome of movie star, as we've talked about before. So I think, to me, that always represents a bit of a turning point. But it also seems natural that at this stage in his career, he would grow very nostalgic and perhaps even grateful for the career that he's had and the life that he's had and what he's been able to do for so many years. So glad to hear it. Not terribly surprised.
Harrison had said a number of times as he was heading into the 2010s that he understood that Hollywood doesn't have really a lot of room for aging movie stars. And so he was really working hard to try to get himself in a position to where he wasn't serving your typical old man roles, but still playing roles that sort of embraced aging. And he just wanted to work, is what Harrison said. He's a workaholic. He loves the craft. He loves the creativity. He loves being around all the people and working on a collaborative effort to make a great film. And the older he got, the more he was able to appreciate that. And so he would return to roles like Indiana Jones and Blade Runner and Star Wars. And then he gets killed off in his return to Star Wars. And everyone assumes Harrison only came back to get killed off. That's the only reason he came back. He wouldn't have come back if Han Solo wasn't killed off. What most people don't realize is that Harrison signed up for the sequel trilogy long before Mark Hamill did. Long before he did. Harrison wants to work. Now, of course, Carrie jumped at the opportunity the second it was presented. I think George said, I'm thinking about writing some C. By the time he said C, he couldn't even say quills. He said C. Carrie jumped in. I'm in. And Mark said, hey, don't. We have to negotiate here. Mark held out. He held out because Mark was nervous about damaging the legacy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He's spoken openly about it, and that was before The Last Jedi, not after. But with Harrison, he was on board. And I know he told this to an entertainment reporter when he was out promoting that film. What was it? Was it the Jackie? I think it was the Jackie Robinson.
Oh, that's right. Yep.
And and he was out promoting that, and he revealed that he had signed on to Star Wars, and that was long before an official announcement was made.
Right.
He just wanted to work, and I believe Harrison Ford would have been in all three of the films of the sequel trilogy. And all you have to do is hear Adam Driver's recounting that day being on the set with Harrison Ford about his attitude and about his appreciation and all of that, and you just know this is a guy who wants to be on film sets. And he also does understand his age,
Yeah.
So he'll take what gets offered to him. If, obviously he has to pass a quality test. Harrison just doesn't sign on for anything, but he's willing to still go and punch in each and every day, even though he's 80 plus years old now. So I'm so tired of the talk that Harrison only came back. He demanded Han Solo be killed off and stuff, because that's a lot of ignorance going on right there. And I see it all the time, still to this day. And it just shocks me. It just shocks me. So.
Yeah.
But
some of it has to do, obviously, with his history of holding out.
Yes.
With the original trilogy and only signing on to one film at a time, and
being critical of the character of Han.
Right. Yes.
Post original trilogy era. Yeah. And talk about how he felt like Han's death would have added a lot of gravitas to the character, because he felt like the character was spent by the time of Return of the Jedi.
Right. Yeah, it was. It came from a story. It came from a story and a character place, I think, for Harrison. It wasn't like he ever thought that genre films or Star Wars movies, they made him so much money. He didn't think that they were beneath him. I mean, if he was just in it for the money, he'd been like, yeah, sign me up for every Star Wars movie you want to make. I'm in. But he really did think that the character was a little one-dimensional, or at best two-dimensional, and that he, would probably be better served and serve the story by being a sacrifice. Because it was written in that he was going to perhaps have some sort of cliffhanger in there, but he wanted him to die.
Mm-hmm. But, I just want to say, you want to talk about story. The whole reason Han Solo died in The Force Awakens was to establish Kylo Ren as a rising force of evil who is on the path.
Yeah.
Once you go down the path of the dark side, forever will it control your destiny. That's where J.J. Abrams was going with that. It was important to the story. But by taking Kylo and redeeming him, that just derails everything.
Yeah.
The whole story has been derailed, and you've sacrificed Han Solo for nothing. That's the harsh reality I'm starting to grasp right now,
Yeah.
I've gone through a lot of evolution in the way that I've analyzed the sequel films. But hearing this news from Adam Driver that JJ's original plan for Kylo was to develop him from unconfident to very confident and steeped in the dark side. That's some real character progression there. That's some serious development that goes in a straight line, as opposed to this, killing Han Solo and then punching yourself in the wound so you can feed off the dark side more, and you're punching yourself in the blaster wound to feed off of your own pain and anger and everything. And then in the next film, he's just kind of a sniveling wuss who smashes up his helmet and he gets pushed around and forced dyads and stuff. Yeah. The sacrifice for Han Solo was for nothing.
Well, on that cheery note, what else does Adam have to say about his
All right, I got a kicker.
Star
There's
Wars?
a kicker. There's a kicker.
Oh, okay.
There's a kicker. Because Adam Driver just talks about observing some of the funny things that would just naturally happen on the set between takes on a Star Wars film. And it was kind of a distraction for him, but he still saw the humor and a lot of the just day-to-day wackiness that was going on.
Those movies are action adventure,
Sure.
but in between takes, they're pure comedy. It's stormtroopers trying to sit down. It's like people trying to move around and running into walls because they're wearing masks. And, it's like Chewie like trying to eat yogurt and lift up his. So I tried to block out all of that.
I've seen it happen at many a convention. Just go look at those cosplayers trying to munch down some cheap I shouldn't say cheap tacos, nasty tacos at the con center. Nothing's cheap at the con center, but he's seeing the real deal. Wow. Yeah. Well, so Adam Driver, we continue taking a look at his recent appearances, including this one here on Saturday Night Live. So I haven't really watched Saturday Night Live a whole lot. I watch it through Instagram clips, and then if I see enough of them after an episode is aired, I'll go back and maybe watch, part of an episode. But Adam Driver, I was surprised that he's hosted the show 4 times. He's almost in the 5-timers club. If you remember
he's
that
good
old
at
sketch.
it too,
and he's real good at it. You're absolutely right, Jim. He is. He's a multi-talented guy. I mean, keep in mind this is also a military veteran who plays the piano beautifully. And is a hell of an actor and has great comic timing. Although, Robin Williams, I think he was one that really attested to the fact that some of the best dramatic actors make some of the best comedians, and vice versa. And so, Adam is such a talented actor that that it's not too terribly surprising that he would have the gift of comic timing. But a lot of stuff on SNL. This one in particular, his monologue was really good. And we've got a clip because he does mention Han Solo here as he's actually singing his Christmas list to Santa this year, accompanying himself on the piano.
Hey, Santa! All right, we're on TV. Hey, Santa. It's me, Adam Driver, from the nice list, and also girls. I turned 40 this year, Santa, so I'd like 5 pairs of chinos. I also wanted one of those giant metal Tesla trucks. I think it would pair perfectly with my teeny tiny micro penis. Oh, and I'd like people to stop coming up to me on the street saying, "You killed Han Solo." I didn't kill Han Solo. Wokeness killed Han Solo.
It's funny. That's funny. Well, Adam Driver.
I thought SNL was like taking a page out of the South Park book, with their whole Panderverse skewer of Kathleen Kennedy and that kind of thing. I felt like they were taking a page out of that.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think they were. That's maybe becoming part of the I don't know if you call it pop culture or the counterculture to the pop culture, but whatever. It's a sentiment that's gotten some popularity here.
Your source for the Force.
All right, let's go to it. We've got so many callers in the queue. RFR's year in review. So we're going to be looking at things like, our favorite action figure, our maybe our favorite.
I have
book,
mine right in front of me.
I've got mine over here as well. Favorite video game, favorite episode of a series, maybe the favorite announcement. Some came true, some haven't come true. But also, if you have any RFR memories, you have a favorite RFR moment, maybe a favorite RFR interview. Could be the big Blake versus FJ. I don't know. That was a big one. So let's get to the calls. If you want to be on the show, you can give us a call, 708-866-1737. The rest of the program is devoted to you. Give us a call. Let's start with, how about Blake from Florida? No, not that Blake. Another Blake. Blake from Florida joining us here on the Rebel Force Radio Year in Review. Hey, Blake, thanks for your patience. Thanks for waiting. You're on.
Hey, guys. Chut. Nice to talk to you all again.
Chut.
Yeah, so I want to do a little two-part of the night. So my favorite RFR memories and why this was my best year as a Star Wars fan in the last 5 years, with a caveat, though. With a caveat.
Mm-hmm.
And also my favorite just Star Wars thing, period. But as far as why this is my best year as a fan, the caveat is I really didn't like anything that came out this year that much as far as live action went.
Whoa! A lot came out this year.
Yeah, and I know I can only see the chat now. No, I say that because I love Star Wars. It's like I don't have any kids. Like I mentioned, if you have a kid, like when they're doing something wrong, you want to say something because you love them. That's why I've been so vocal all the years calling in. But none of the live action stuff really called out. But I really removed myself from social media this year.
Yeah.
I came to realize now in my mid-30s, I don't get enjoyment saying, hey, I didn't like this, you like that, and then they're being butting the heads online or vice versa as opinions. So this year I completely removed myself for the most part as far as Star Wars social media. But I really wanted to give a shout out to the RFR community because I did a lot of in-person stuff. I hanged out with Joe Dallas quite a bit this year.
Oh, yeah.
I'll be seeing him again pretty soon. Me and Joe Dallas have become pretty good friends. If anyone's on Patreon, which everyone should be, me and Joe, Joe is a VIP on there. He does some of the best shows with Jimmy on there. Me and Joe become very close. I got to hang out with Tyler Page, Chris Mock, Barry Harmon, and fellow listener Andy down in Miami. Miami's just a little south of me, and they were down here for the Baseball Classic a couple months ago. Tyler hit me up, got to go down and hang out with them, and that was much needed. Not to get too personal, but that was also like around the same time I found out my mom had gotten breast cancer, which she did beat, and my mom's completely fine. Completely fine.
Great.
But it just felt like, it just felt like such a blessing because it was just the distraction I needed. My wife was out of town up your way, Jason, in Ohio, seeing her grandma that weekend, and got to go down and hang with Tyler and all those guys. And I consider Tyler a great RFR friend.
He's a good one.
Also, David from Ocala, fellow listener. I know you're listening, bro. Shouting out to you. So just making Star Wars for me, even though I didn't like most of the content that came out this year, just making it more personal to me, just made the franchise mean that much more.
Yeah.
You guys know what I mean? So
Totally.
I want to thank you guys for giving me those opportunities because of the community. And again, Tyler and Chris and Joe and Andy, Barry, everybody. I mean, I love you guys all. Looking forward to next year.
That's what the holidays are for.
So
Man. Thank you. That's great. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. So, but as far as my favorite Star Wars content of the year, Star Wars Jedi Survivor. I'm a big Xbox player. Got it on Xbox. The game was phenomenal. I know not everyone is a gamer in the community. At least get on YouTube. There's got to be some kind of cut online where someone put all the cutscenes together and made into some kind of YouTube film. But the reason it worked for me, I mean, Cal Kestis is such a great lead, and it's the story is just great traditional storytelling, which we're not getting in American cinema nowadays, especially the last 10 years for lots of reasons, which I won't get into. Which I mean, they may be a little conspiracy theory, but
let's just say it's what Adam Driver said killed Han Solo.
I didn't want to say it, but yeah, Woke just killed it. So, but no, like, look, nice young man falls in love with nice young lady. There's action, adventure, twist, turns. It's just great.
All right, careful with the spoilers,
storytelling
young
and
man.
storytelling.
Careful with the spoilers, because I'm still playing it.
Mac's
Believe
still
it or
working
not.
his way through.
Oh, no. Everything
Well, you
I'm
said love
saying,
story.
You get off the bat, just playing the first hour or two. No. Don't worry. Jimmy, I got you, bro. Don't worry, bro. No.
Because I just recently
No, but
came
it's
back
just
to the game. I quit playing at the beginning of the summer because I don't sit inside very much during the summer. So, but
Well,
I've been
bro,
playing
I know
a
it's
lot
gonna get cold
lately.
up there pretty soon, man.
Oh, it's cold already.
Yeah, dude, you got to get back to it. That is such a highlight. It is the most beautiful Star Wars story I've seen probably since, I guess, Mando Season 2 for me. I did like Bad Batch Season 2 parts of it, but as far as just an overall story, that game just blew me away, that storytelling. So I just wanted to get you guys' thoughts on that. And again, just a shout out to the community. And everyone, just look forward to next year. Hang out with your local, RFR fans and have a good time hanging out with each other. So I just want to leave it at that. I don't want to take up too much time. I love you guys. Thanks for the great year. And I look forward to talking to you more next year.
Thanks, Blake. Thank you very much.
No, that's great.
And happy holidays to you, especially your mom. Yeah. Thank you for all of that. Yeah. RFR, bringing people together. Mac, you're still working your way through Jedi Survivor.
Well, yeah, like I said, I took a break for like 5 months. But just recently, within the last 2 weekends, I've gotten back involved with Jedi Survivor, and I'm really having a good time with it. So I will eventually finish it off. Probably, you never know, maybe even before the year is over. But it's a great game, and I can't recommend it more because something that casual gamers like you and me need to keep in mind with these games, you can customize it to such a degree where the difficulty just fits you perfectly. You can make it a little hard, but not too hard. You can make the controls do more than they do or do less than they do. There's just so many ways to approach playing the game. It never gets beyond your skill level as a gamer. And especially this is important to casual gamers like me and Jason, is that it makes the whole experience so much more accessible. You can still get as much as you want out of it as a more serious gamer because you can make it a more difficult playing experience in so many different ways. But this, most importantly, though, is the fun that you have playing it, the puzzles and the mysteries and the action.
Do you know if they did a novelization, Jim, of the Jedi Survivor story or a comic adaptation?
They've done spin-offs, but they're really, really weak.
Yeah, so it's
not been a
true
straight
adaptation. Yeah,
not that I've seen thus far. But this is the second of them. There's Jedi Survivor and Jedi Fallen Order, which was the original one, and both are very similar in terms of the gameplay, the tone, the pacing, the storytelling, and the characters, of course. So I think it's probably the best of Star Wars this year is Jedi Survivor. I think that is the best out of any medium and, game, film, comic, novel, animation, you name it. I think the best of 2023 was Jedi Survivor.
We do have some lines open for the first time in a while. So we've had some people drop off. They got other things they got to do. So fill in their spot, 708-866-1737. That's the number to call. And we've got another Blake on the line. You know which Blake I'm talking about. I'm talking about Blake from Blake's Take. Hey, Blake. Happy holidays, buddy.
Hey, Chut.
Chut, buddy.
Chut, Blake.
Blake, I got to ask you, we're going to talk to you about a number of things, but I want to know what was on your Christmas list this year? Star Wars, that is.
On my Christmas list.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm pretty sure every single thing on my Christmas list is Star Wars.
Oh, that's
besides maybe like two things.
That's a good boy. All right, what's the thing that you want the most this year? What are you going to run to the tree? What's going to be your? For me, it was the Ewok Village. What's your Ewok Village?
Jedi Survivor.
The game that we were just
play it.
Uh-huh.
I've heard so many good things about it. My cousin has it. He's played it, but he's only played like 5 minutes of it, and he says it's so good, and he bought it like a couple months ago, and that's all he's ever played.
Oh, all right. So
I'm
you're
just
5 minutes.
like,
It
I'm
was the
just
best
trying to
5
play
minutes he's
more.
ever had.
So if you get this, if it's under your tree this year, you're gonna spend your holiday break playing Jedi Survivor. Like for a whole week, you're never gonna get out of your pajamas. You're gonna have to peel them off you. You're gonna be sitting there,
yeah,
nonstop. Remember those days,
Sounds
Jim?
good. Remember them. I think you just laid out exactly what I'm going to be doing during the holidays. I'm taking a little time off, so it's going to be nice.
Yeah. So Blake, what was your favorite Star Wars moment in 2023? I don't even think with you we have to clarify Star Wars moment, because if we just ask you what your favorite moment is of 2023, you're undoubtedly going to have something Star Wars to share. So what is it?
So I know that you guys are probably. I've talked about how my favorite TV, like one of my favorite TV show moments and everything, was the Ahsoka, Anakin, all that. Which I absolutely loved that, and that made so much of an impact. I know we saw him in Kenobi and stuff, but having this as what we've seen after Return of the Jedi, of what we know, Anakin, Vader, what he's doing, why he's in the world between worlds. We still don't fully understand that, but it was just so cool. But if I'm gonna something else I really enjoyed, some people don't like it, but I really liked the ending to Mando Season 3, the final episode. I thought that was really good.
Oh, the old man on the porch watching the kid play in the front yard?
I think he just means the whole battle on Mandalore and all of that.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't think he means the very last scene.
Is that what you mean? You mean the big climactic battle with Moff Gideon? Yeah.
Yeah, so like the climax of it.
Yeah. Yeah, by the way, Hasbro hasn't released anything yet or even announced anything, but some of the overseas manufacturers have a killer Moff Gideon in his armor action figure that's coming out. It just looks incredible. Where are you, Hasbro? Give us that figure.
I know. I'm honestly surprised Hasbro hasn't released or said anything about that. But Funko's, they've already done their entire line for that and everything.
Oh, Funko's got it out before the episodes even air. Funko's so ahead, but they can be because they don't have to deal with likenesses and things like that. So it's a little bit different for them. But man, I tell you, when you got that awesome Death Trooper armored up Moff Gideon, where's that figure? Well, you know what, Blake? I will tell you that Ahsoka versus Anakin in that series, it's certainly on my list of favorite things that happened in Star Wars in 2023. It was huge. I also continue to enjoy the love that Hayden Christensen gets and seems to give to Star Wars fans. It's great. So, hey, buddy, if we don't talk to you before then, have a wonderful and happy holiday. I think Max got one more here for you.
You just triggered something that I learned about just right before we started the show, because you were talking about Hayden Christensen and how he gives back to the fan base. There's been a recent story about a couple of fans showing up at Hayden's house.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, they said he lives about an hour outside of outside of L.A.
Okay, right.
And his address is he lives.
Okay.
No, Blake.
Blake's
I'm not giving you. I don't want you to get any ideas here, because I question the ethical nature of what these guys did. But these guys, they drove out to Hayden's house. They got his address. They drove out there, and when they got there, Hayden was hanging up sheets outside to dry off in the air and stuff. And so they didn't approach him. They waited for him to go inside, and then they rang the doorbell. And as Hayden approached, one of them held their phone up into the door window, and he had typed a note in there. And the note said it was just something like explaining how much Hayden meant to these two guys growing up, and they're super fans, and would he take a picture with them? So Hayden opens the door and invites them in.
Oh, what? What?
Because it's early in the morning. He goes, have you guys had anything to eat yet? And they're like, no. So he sat them down and made breakfast for them.
What?
It's the craziest story I ever heard.
That sounds like fun to go have breakfast with Hayden Christensen.
Yeah, how about
Going to his house, though, at early in the morning, though. That's like...
Yeah, well, if you do end up doing this, just at least take a box of donuts with you or something. Just
Right,
a little something. You don't want to show up empty-handed.
No.
But Hayden says, hey, sit down. I'll make you guys something to eat. They sit down. They talk about Star Wars. I guess these guys are from Australia, so they talked about Australia, where Hayden shot the episodes 2 and 3. Hayden signed a few things for them, took some photos with them, and sent them on their way. And he was just like the most down-to-earth guy that you could possibly meet. Now, the reason I found out about this story is because there are a lot of blogs online taking their Instagram post about meeting Hayden Christensen along with their picture of themselves with Hayden Christensen. A lot of know-it-alls online are really condemning these two guys for going out and doing that. Even though Hayden was cool with it, it's certainly not anything any fan should be doing, is going
that's a
to
tough one. Yeah.
an actor's home. I mean, you just shouldn't be doing that. Even though it's a great story,
Yeah.
you shouldn't be doing that. There was a fan back in the 70s who was tripping out of his mind. He showed up at John Lennon's house, and he wanted to discuss all of these lyrics John Lennon wrote because he felt like John Lennon was writing about this guy, this fan. And he went to Lennon's house to find out if, in fact, he was writing about him. And John stood there and said, they're just words. I just put these words together and they sound good to me. And that's all it really is. But then Lennon looks at the guy and goes, so have you had anything to eat then? And brings him in and gives him breakfast.
No, that doesn't happen. No.
That you can find the video on YouTube.
You're kidding me. You're not joking. These are the same thing. And then, of course, look what happened to John Lennon. Because he was very accessible to fans living in New York
I didn't want to go there, but I mean, that's that. I mean, history is what history is.
Right.
So yeah, you need to give these people their private space because they are, of course, human beings. But
you show up at my house.
I mean, I wasn't planning on talking about that, but I read about it before we started the show, and you said, Hayden is very generous with fandom. So,
hey, Blake, happy holidays, buddy, and please give your family all of our love, and have a great holiday. And we definitely want to, shoot us an email. Let us know if you got that Jedi Survivor under the tree this year. I'm dying to know. You had something else?
I wanted to say at the beginning of the show, you guys were talking about George Lucas and all of that.
Yeah, he's photobombing.
And that reminded me, last week I was doing a school report about an invention. I had to write an essay about an invention someone made. Most people did, or like a time in history, like a tragic event or something like that. Most people did like a bunch of different wars or things like that. But I thought, and so I asked my teacher, so would an invention count if they created one of the best one of the best movie series of all time? And they said, well, yeah, that can work. I just need a lot of different details about it. So I wrote my essay about George Lucas creating Star Wars.
Oh, wow. There you go. You know what, Blake? I used to do that all the time when there would be an assignment. I would try to find a way to spin that assignment to make it about something that I was passionate about. And that was the only way I got through school, was that way.
It's the only way to get through life.
Right. That's awesome, buddy. Thank you for that. And thanks for always being there for us. There he goes, Blake of Blake's Take. Let's talk to, David. David from Boston. He's been waiting a long time. So, David, thanks for your patience. You want to talk about your favorite,
guys.
Shut your favorite Star Wars gift from 2023.
Oh, no, actually, I didn't know it was from 2023. Actually, I might have gotten it today because a buddy of mine.
Well, it is still 2023. If you got it today.
Well, he sent me a signature series box. I'll probably open after the show. But I thought it was like, okay, normally, guys, I hate Christmas, but it's like 2 weeks before Christmas, and this is when I start feeling the Christmas spirit.
It just takes you a while to get into it. Okay. All right. That's cool.
But I thought it was favorite, like, action figure. It was actually given to me from my sister in 1998.
All right. Well, it's 25 years late, but okay.
Raider, the Bantha with the Tuscan Raider on it.
The Bantha.
Oh, that's a good one.
Okay.
You guys remember those?
Yeah. Yeah.
Of course.
Oh.
So that's.
And then, then I guess the first Star Wars years. You remember the first Star Wars? There were no toys. And my dad passed away a few years ago, almost like 10 years ago, and we're finally going through stuff. And I found they had Diplodots and whatever because they didn't have the toys ready yet.
Yeah.
And going through the stuff, I found one that my dad did the Millennium Falcon, and then I had done the Vader and Vader and Kenobi. And
wait a minute. What did you call these Diplodots?
They're
Dip Dots.
Yeah, wasn't that what they called it?
They were just called Dip Dots.
Dip Dots.
A poster thing where you had paint on it or whatever, and you painted on it.
Oh,
okay. I couldn't believe my mom saved it. Yeah. Is that what it was called? Diplodots?
Dip Dots.
Dip Dots.
I'm looking at this. It's like a paint by number kind of thing?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And they called it Dip Dots.
It didn't have numbers on it, but yeah.
No. Well, they called it Dip Dots because the paint came in these non-spillable trays. So you would dip your paintbrush into those dots. See those dots on the...
yeah. Okay. Yes. I see.
And I couldn't believe my mom saved those. And as I said, my dad did the Millennium Falcon one, and I just about teared up seeing that.
That's awesome.
Oh, that's wonderful, man.
That's awesome, dude. You found those all those years later.
Those are right there.
And that is a example. I know Billy Mack. He likes the Star Wars puzzles, and those are also from a period of time they were released by Kenner, where they didn't have anything else. They didn't have any toys, so they put out puzzles, and Billy collects a lot of those from '77.
I still have the original Luke Skywalker staring into the sun one. It was like a 500 piece.
Yeah. I remember. Billy has all of those Kenner puzzles. Well, hey, man, that's a great memory, the Dip Dots. We were dipping our dots in our house growing up, too. I think I had that exact package you were just showing on the screen, Jay. That brings back some memories. But, yeah, there was no Star Wars merch. It was that. You had the Dip Dots. You may have had a bop bag or something, an inflatable thing that you punch. But other than that, yeah, it was very limited. And, of course, the board game, the Escape from Death Star board game was very early. And, those were the days right before the floodgates opened.
We do have a few phone lines open. So come on, this is the time to call. Open line, 708-866-1737. We've had a very consistent live viewership here from our Patreon supporters, so thank you all for being here. Let's go to if there was ever a RFR Patreon VIP, it's this guy, Eric from Phoenix. Eric, you are on with Rebel Force Radio. Hello.
Hey, guys.
Hey, man. Good to hear from you.
Yeah, good to talk to you guys. This was a tough assignment.
Yeah, we give you homework. You needed to come up with your favorite things, your favorite moments, your favorite action figure, your favorite game, your favorite comic.
Yeah, and kind of where my head went, I went with my favorite RFR, for lack of a better term, episode or RFR content for 2023. And I actually started going back through everything that's been released. And I only got through April. And I ran out of time because the show started. But I knew kind of where I was going to go with this. And for me, from an RFR standpoint, my favorite thing of 2023 was a Patreon exclusive thing. And it was Peter Never Nicer Bicer doing the beer pairings with the original trilogy and the prequels. Then he did the sequels, Rogue One, Solo, and Clone Wars. And then he had a 4-hour marathon with Jimmy Mack on all the Disney Plus series. And if you think about original content and a topic that I don't know how he came up with it. So number one, it's a very original topic. And then number two, if you listen to the roughly 8 hours of content from those 3 episodes, it is a great conversation with Jimmy and Peter. And the beer pairing works. Like when you hear Peter talk about why he picked what he picked and how it related to him to those movies. And then the other cool thing is everything Peter picked was in the Philly area, and he shipped it all to Jimmy, and they had a great conversation. It was a ton of fun. And that's the kind of thing you get when you're on Patreon. So the folks listening to this that aren't on Patreon, you don't know what I'm talking about, but I'm trying to share. I mean, this is just, there's so much good content on RFR, guys. Don't get me wrong, but this to me was so unique and just quintessential RFR Patreon content. That to me was the top of the list for 2023.
Wow. So you're saying Peter Beiser picked a peck of pickled beer?
Yes. And he picked a lot, and I'm not exactly sure in the last one. The guys did a great job, and you would never have known that they had been going as long as they went. And it was just a great conversation. It was a ton of fun. I wish I was able to get all those beers so that I could have sampled along with them when they were talking about it. But it was a great conversation, and it fit.
It's the RFR home game. Remember the old days?
It's just a 6-pack of beer.
It was a consolation prize. Well, we're going to send you home with the RFR board game. That's awesome. Yeah, those are great. And I didn't know that one went 4 hours. Dang.
Yeah, it went really long.
Wow.
It was probably the longest podcast I ever did.
That's an RFR record. That is.
Yeah, it has to be. I don't ever recall doing any show longer than that. And I sacrificed a lot of stomach lining for Patreon during that show. Yeah. Well, but somehow we made it through the whole thing without even a bathroom break, if I remember. Maybe we took one. I can't.
Wait a minute, Mac. You didn't need a bathroom break after all that beer in Star Wars.
I know.
That's crazy.
Yes. Yeah,
that's crazy.
It was a lot of fun from what I can remember, which isn't much. Thank God for the podcast. Can go back and listen to, hey, what did I do in that show again?
Yeah.
Can I just real quick? I can do this in 30 seconds. So I was trying to go through all the RFR Q&As, and this is the thing. It's such a variety of people and topics. So I quit writing them down after April because there's too many. So I can do this in 35 seconds because I've been practicing before you took my call. So I promise 35 seconds, okay?
Okay.
So first up in the new year was Top 50 Star Wars Video Games by Robbo from Chicago. Then it was Pitfalls of Star Wars Nostalgia from Peter Nevernicer Beiser. From Flash Gordon to Star Wars with Sean Wanty. Ranking Lightsaber Duels with John. Sequel Trilogy Frustration with Jamie Bruno. Mount Rushmore Films of Star Wars with Mike Aragon. Star Wars Autographs with Josh from Florida. Where does Mandalorian go from here with Sean Wanty? Taking a break from Star Wars with Ben Stein. No, not the Ben Stein from the first Steeler movie. Ben Stein from RFR. How does Darth Vader pee from Suds from Chicago? Joe Dallas and the Steampunk Mando. Joe freaking Dallas. The guy's phenomenal. Intro to KOTOR 1 and KOTOR 2 with Robbo from Chicago. And finally, Processing the Mando Season 3 with Sean Wanty. And that's just through April. I gave up. There's too many.
Wow.
So a ton of fun. And I just want to say a huge thank you to Jason, you, Jimmy, you, Tyler, for supporting us on these live streams. You guys put out a ton of content. It's a ton of fun. Was thrilled that you guys threw this live show out there for us. Great. I was thrilled I got a chance to jump in on the chat, and just a lot of great chat going on while you guys are talking. It's almost information overload, but just the content over the years, how much fun you guys have with the show. Your recent weekly episode where you guys took that voicemail and you broke it down. I mean, that was just phenomenal how you guys worked your way through that. Just a ton of fun, and a huge thank you to you guys for all the content you provide and all the fun and enjoyment. So thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Eric. That's awesome. Eric. Really appreciate
Thanks,
it.
Eric.
Yeah, I put Tyler on here. Hey, Tyler, we've had quite a workout. I mean, some of the callers, I would see these great topics they wanted to bring up, and then they had to bail. So, you know, it's the holiday season. People are busy. We've still got a couple more on the line, but there's time. There's time. Where are we going to go? We got 708-866-1737. Oh, I see. I pushed Tyler off the screen. Didn't mean to do that. 708-866-1737. But Tyler, you know, we haven't heard from you, and there's a lot of different things that you could weigh in on here. Favorite action figure, favorite book, favorite comic, favorite video game, favorite episode of a streaming series in 2023. Or, I mean, you've been a part of so many great RFR moments because you're the official call screener and the program observer here. Anything jump out at you? What are some of your tops for 2023?
Well, my favorite caller is definitely Blake. I feel like that's a given, but you know, I thought about this earlier when Jimmy put the call out, and I think the funniest moment in RFR this year for me was when you guys had Baby Belushi on, and he's talking about meeting little Leia and the situation he found himself in. I remember laughing at that pretty hard.
It's always funny when Baby Belushi shows up on the show. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's back in August. If you guys want to go check that out. And then, you know, I think my favorite episode this year was the Bad Batch, The Outpost.
Wow.
Yeah, I think that beats out all the Ahsoka ones, man. That episode is so good.
It's a Crosshair episode, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a Crosshair one in the Winter Planet. That one was so good, man. Like I just feel like it had a complete story and it really explored him and it moved the character along.
Boy, when Bad Batch is firing on all cylinders, it's some of the best Star Wars that's being told. If you're out there, if you're one of those types of Star Wars fans that Mac was describing earlier about, you know, you're just not into the animated, you don't want to watch a cartoon, you'd be hard pressed to get through Bad Batch and not come away impressed by just how great the storytelling is. It's a different tone. They don't necessarily try to tell big stories. They tell more intimate stories about characters, and it's really, really good. I was thinking that too. I was going through the list of episodes and going, oh yeah, that one. But yeah, thanks for bringing up Bad Batch for sure.
Yeah, and just one thing I've heard from all the callers is just the community presence that you guys bring is just overwhelmingly positive and very tight-knit and very personal. So thank you to everyone who calls in and calling in 2024. Keep me busy and, you know, just keep being a part of the community. That's what makes this thing so great. So,
well, thanks,
Tyler. Hey, Tyler, we had a few
a
great off-air moments this year too, didn't we?
A ton. I didn't know if I could talk about those, but
you can.
Yeah. You know,
a few concerts, maybe.
A ton of concerts. But you know, when you bumped into what's a Machete?
When we. Todd Stashwick was letting us hang out at his table at Chicago Comic-Con, and his table was right next to Danny Trejo's. And Danny was hanging out and about and stuff, and Tyler and I think my son, who else was there? You guys were all acting like giddy little school kids. But the biggest thing that happened with me and Tyler this year was the few days we spent in Peoria with Daniel Logan. It was like a couple seasons of Entourage all condensed into a few days, and it was quite incredible. And Danny has a particular energy that I think we fed off of, and likewise. So it was just this vortex of insanity and little sleep going on that week. And of course, Mark Dodson was with us as part of our crew too. Mark Dodson, best known as the voice of Salacious Crumb. And I mean, when you get Salacious and D-Lo together in Peoria, it's just
madness.
This is madness.
Absolute madness. And we had a great time that weekend.
Absolutely.
Lots more of that coming in the future, I think.
We got a couple more calls. So Tyler, we're going to get to those since you took the time to screen them all. We might as well get to them, but we'll check in with you one more time here before we head out. So let's head back to the phones. Oh, you know what? Before we do that, I jotted down just a few names. At the end of the year, you kind of take stock of a lot of things, and we did lose some in the Star Wars family, in the Star Wars community. Nicholas Kepros, who was Captain Nita in the Empire Strikes Back radio drama, a big favorite amongst a lot of Star Wars fans. Those radio dramas. He passed away, as well as Paul Grant, who played an Ewok in Return of the Jedi. Michael Reeves passed away also, a Star Wars writer, wrote some of the episodes of Ewoks and Droids. We lost him. Norman Reynolds, art director for Star Wars, production designer for The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, passed away as well. And the one name I think that is, when I saw it, I go, oh gosh, that's right. We lost him, and that's Mark Boudreau, who was a legendary toy designer and designed much of our childhoods with things like, the original Millennium Falcon, worked for Kenner for many, many years, and then continued to work on the Star Wars line throughout the Hasbro years as well. He passed away. So yeah, it's just, and of course, Ray Stevenson, Balin Skull, we lost him right when we discovered him as Star Wars fans. So those are just a few of the folks that we lost in the year 2023. So
I'd like to also add somebody to that list who never ever received the amount of credit he should have for his contributions to Star Wars fandom, because they all happened very much behind the scenes. And that's a good friend of ours here at Rebel Force Radio, Stu Levy from Rancho Obi-Wan.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
The amount of work that that guy put into preserving the history of Star Wars via the exhibits at Rancho Obi-Wan could never be underestimated. He was a very, very close friend of mine, and I just still, it's been a few months now, but I still have to say, oh my God, what,
Yeah.
why? But he was a great guy, and somebody who definitely never received the credit, nor was he searching for it, but he was certainly proud of that Rancho Obi-Wan, man.
Yeah.
And a lot of his blood, sweat, and tears make up that museum.
One of the toughest things about losing somebody like that is that when you lose somebody really close to you, they tend to be one of those that you most want to talk to about that loss. But they're the ones that you lost. So it's a really tough thing. And anyway, yeah. So it's bittersweet. The end of the year, you take stock of all the great things that you have, all the blessings you have, and then, of course, the things that you lose. Yeah, we certainly dedicate a good portion of all of our thoughts and prayers to those folks as well. Let's go back to the phones. We got Leighton from Georgia. Leighton's been holding on for a real long time. Hello, Leighton. Thanks for your patience. You're on finally with Rebel Force Radio.
Hi, guys. Chut-chut. How are you doing?
Chut-chut. Doing well.
Glad to hear it. Yeah, I just wanted to, I guess two things. Make a point about my favorite Star Wars moment of this year. It's a little bit of a cop-out because it's my favorite moment every year, which is going with my family, my son especially. We go to Disney down in Florida, and of course, one of the things we do is have a good time in Galaxy's Edge, and that's always my favorite part of the year.
So you go every year to Disney? Is that an annual trip?
We go too many times a year.
Oh, you go more than once a year.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. Okay. And so that is that's your favorite Star Wars memory each year, is going to Disney. And
it is. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And this year, it's a little something different every year, but yeah, we enjoyed some of the food they have there and just kind of, hung out. It's just fun. He's not the hugest fan of the movies and the series, but he really gets into it when we spend time together there. I think he really kind of sees how much I love Star Wars, and he enjoys himself there as well. So as a dad, that really hits me in the feels, I guess, so to speak. So yeah, I love it.
I know that feeling. My God, do I know that feeling. And my family actually is targeting a trip to Orlando.
Oh,
So,
really? Oh,
yeah. At some point, like a spring break kind of thing. And so I'm bracing myself. I'm saving my money. I'm making my reservations at the cantina.
Yeah.
We had a good thing going, Jason. When we would leave the cantina, we would make another reservation, and then they would bing us, and we'd go right back to the table we were at minutes prior. We cracked the code.
We cracked the code, and it was a great employee there that gave us that tip, if you remember, because we first went up to the cantina. We were rejected. They said, "Oh no, you didn't make reservations. You're not getting in here." And we walked away, kind of dejected, and it was like, "Psst, hey, come over here." And it was it was a Disney employee that told us about this getting on the waiting list, and we used that a couple of times, and it was great. Maybe too many times.
People are making reservations 4 months out, and we're just, pressing the button on the app over and over again. They keep binging us back to go in.
We got one more call here before we wrap things up. Let's go to Fond du Lac, Wisconsin, with Rich Brendel, a longtime listener and supporter of us here at Rebel Force Radio. Happy holidays, Rich.
Hey guys, happy holidays. Thanks for doing the live tonight. It was a really nice little holiday surprise.
We like these live shows. They're fun. That's why I do them.
Yeah.
Doesn't it sound like I'm having fun?
It's fun, damn it.
All right, Rich, what do you got? What's on your best of list for 2023?
Well, as far as like RFR goes, I think probably the highlight was in the middle of the RFR RPG episode when they finally broke out that Jackson was going to be part of it. And that I was just like, I remember driving in the car and I was like, yes, that's awesome. And then Tyler mentioned that I wrote that song for High Adventure with that. And it was an honor to hear that song at the end of that episode. That was pretty cool. So
the Jackson song
was kind of a highlight for me.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Jackson won the High Adventure.
Now, so we had Jackson. We busted Jackson out of prison, and to escape, we snuck up to the rooftop, and we were going to jump to another building. So we figured, well, Jackson will be able to make this jump, no problem. That sucker fell like a stone.
Wait a minute, you're telling me Jackson, the Star Wars rabbit, he can't jump? He has no key.
When we saw that happen, we're like, well, we're not jumping if he can't make it. And we have yet to see him. Did we reunite with him? I think we did. I think we. No, I don't ever recall reuniting with him. We did?
Yeah.
Okay.
White rabbits can't jump? Is that what you're telling me? I can't believe it. It's unbelievable.
Green rabbits can't jump.
Green rabbits. That's right. He's green. Rich, what about outside of RFR? What really grabbed you this year when it comes to Star Wars?
Ahsoka was just amazing. That one episode after the Anakin reveal where it was like the kind of the world between worlds and the flashbacks and everything. That was just a love letter to Clone Wars. That was, I would have never imagined. I mean, you would have told me I would see those kind of things in live action like years ago when I was watching Clone Wars as they were coming on. I would have been like,
you wouldn't have believed
that
it.
would be amazing.
Yeah.
And along with that, Dave Filoni being the creative director there now. I mean, I could picture George Lucas being like, "Kid stole my job," but
let's hope they treat Dave with a little more class than they treated George. I want to think positively as well.
I can't accept him as being like, I don't see it as him being the new George Lucas. There'll never be another George Lucas, I mean, that was a very very unique situation that George carved away for himself. Dave is still very much a company man, marching to the beat of the corporate drum.
Yeah.
And that's something George never marched along to. So that's a big difference between the two. I'm not faulting Dave for doing that. He has to survive as a professional. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying George was in a very certain situation that he developed for himself. And it might even be argued that George at times became the very thing he fought against in Hollywood. From a certain point of view.
The ultimate irony. Hey, thanks, Rich. Happy holidays to you and yours and everybody there at Fond du Lac. Isn't that in that Johnny Cash song? I've been everywhere, man. Fond du Lac.
Yeah.
So as we wrap things up here, this episode, Jim, I know there were a few things you threw out at us, you and me. And I've got them here as far as like some of our favorites. I can't really talk about the comics or the books too much.
There's really not much to be said.
Was there anything in the publishing world that really jumped out at you that you said, oh, you know what, if you only read one book or one comic title that came out of 2023, this is the one to grab?
Comic titles, not so much.
Yeah?
I don't think it was a very stellar year for comic. They're doing this series called Dark Droids, and I'm not sure if it's supposed to be parody or what the hell's going on. It's very different. It's fun, but as far as books, there was a great Timelines book that came out this year, which really tied together.
He's waiting for somebody to bring it to him here. You got it over there? You can Timelines.
Oh, there it is. Timelines. Yes, Star Wars Timelines. And what I like about that book is it incorporates all of the newer things alongside all of the things that have been previously established. So you have canon in there from Andor, from The Bad Batch, from Mandalorian, stuff of that nature. Yeah, there it is. It came out in April. And so that's a book I would recommend. I've been very disappointed with Star Wars fiction for the better part of the last 8 years. So I can't recommend anything from Star Wars fiction, as I have mostly just given up on it. I'm not a big High Republic fan, but I know a lot of people who are really enjoying that series too. So, and some of those characters will live on in live action via the Acolyte. So you can't totally write off the High Republic, but you also can only tolerate it for as long as you can tolerate it. So that's me. That's just me. Yeah. Favorite action figure, Jason?
Yeah, favorite action figure. I've got a couple here. As far as the 3.75 inch, the classic scale, the vintage collection, this is one that really tugged at me from a nostalgic standpoint because this was, it harkened back to my very favorite vintage Kenner action figure, which is the Jedi Luke. I slept with him under my pillow. As weird as that sounds, I carried him with me in my pocket my first day of first grade because I was terrified, and I put Jedi Luke in there. So when the Book of Boba Fett version of Luke Skywalker, which is called the Jedi Academy version, came out, was so excited to have a new version of this character, and it gave me all the feels. So that's my favorite in the 4-inch line for this year. Book of Boba Fett, Luke Skywalker, Jedi Academy.
I have that one, but deluxe edition, which probably isn't very attractive to you because it comes in a box, not on a card. But the figure itself has the backpack with Grogu in the back. And to me, that's an essential part of that action figure.
Yeah.
Now, my favorite action figure is this guy. No, it's not Joe Dallas. It's Boba Fett from The Mandalorian and the Book of Boba Fett.
God, the detail.
Tusken Boba. Yeah. Tusken Boba. And the sculpt is so good. And the soft goods fit him so well. And the accessories it comes with, it's just great. You know, we saw earlier, this is what we were looking at.
Is that a deluxe, Jim, or was that on a single card? I don't know that I have that one.
It's just a single carded figure. I don't like the scam Hasbro's pulling with deluxe figures now. Because if it's going to be deluxe
today in the Jedi Council private chat about the deluxe.
About the deluxe Jango Fett? What makes that action figure deluxe? Why are we paying a premium for that? Because it comes with a little flame coming out of his jetpack? No.
It's terrible.
No, that's again, that's us taking our lumps just merely for being fans and supporting this crap
It's
for
the
40
Star
something
Wars
years.
tax. That's what we call it. The Star Wars fan tax.
No, Hasbro. Oh, I have a whole Hasbro rant, but I can't get into it now. Maybe next week. Next week's gonna be hard because Christmas is warm and fuzzy. This is my rant on Hasbro is mired in despair and angst.
Do you got a runner-up? Do you have anybody else there? I have a couple of Black Series figures I want to throw up, but I know you're not into the Black Series. But do you have a runner-up there on the 3.75?
No, it's just me and Boba.
Okay. Well, on the Black Series, I got to say I love the final duel. Vader with the cracked helmet, revealing the Anakin Skywalker Hayden Christensen head for a couple of reasons. Obviously, I love the Anakin Skywalker reveal underneath, but this new body that they're using for the current Black Series Vaders is just gorgeous. The proportions are fantastic. The soft goods fit wonderfully. And they've been using this particular body mold for a couple of the Vaders this year. It's awesome. I wish that, I'm trying to do the focus thing, but it's subtle. But boy, there you can see sort of he's giving you the stink eye through the cracked helmet. I love that one. And here's one that surprised me because I wasn't, I don't read the comics, I don't read the books, but this chrysanthemum figure that they put out for Black Series. Whoa, is this an incredible looking action figure? I absolutely love it. They also did a version of it in the vintage scale, the 3.75 inch scale, which I think is just as good. But I've got the Black Series version of it here. Great.
I'm happy that I'm happy they're releasing 3 3/4 inch counterparts to these great sculpts. The Vader is very similar to the Vader they released in the 3 3/4 inch line. Same with the Chrysanthemum. Both of those would be runners up for me, but only in the vintage collection size because I don't do Black Series. So,
right.
But yeah, there are good sculpts coming out, here and there, and good character choices here and there.
Yeah.
But Hasbro, oh my God. I can't even. I don't want to. I'm in too good a mood. I'm not going to.
I can't even. Hey, a few things that jumped out at me, Jim, as I was looking at the year in review here. Obviously, Bad Batch Season 2. We're coming up in 2024 with Bad Batch Season 3, which will be the final season of this series. I think this is sort of a little bit of a dark horse. I think this is the little show that could. I think at the end of the day, as I said earlier, when Bad Batch is running on all cylinders, it's really, really great. I think that history is going to judge this show pretty well. There's some really phenomenal characters in this series. We saw the death, perhaps, of one of the leads, Tech. I don't know. We don't know, but we can only assume. My guess is he really is gone. I think it's going to give the show the weight that it needs, and provide a springboard for some of the other characters and perhaps the redemption of Crosshair. But Bad Batch is definitely a highlight for me. One of them.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the streaming series this year, but I enjoyed the after shows even more. And there's tons of great things that can be found in Bad Batch, in Mandalorian, in Ahsoka. Just like tons of great stuff. And then there's also tons of things that I could be a little critical about with those shows too. So I'm just hoping that
Jack
Star
Black
Wars,
and Lizzo back in April.
Just disgusting gimmick casting.
Yeah.
That is just, Star Wars is so above that. But Jon Favreau is very connected to showbiz, and he needs to curb that kind of stuff. I mean, do we really need to be seeing Tim Meadows in The Mandalorian? I mean, even lesser things, just very recognizable actors. The weirdo with the stapler from Office Space is in Book of Boba Fett. I mean, it's just... it's not necessary for them to be treating Star Wars streaming series like it's the Love Boat, and you just have these these actors in there who are really just the taste of the week or whatever. And I don't know if the stapler guy from Office Space falls
Stephen
in that
Root
category, but he's just instantly recognizable for a particular quirky
that guy.
role in a comedy.
Yeah.
So so I what I would like to see, and maybe with Dave Filoni in the position he's in, maybe that will provide a little more consistency and a higher standard for Star Wars productions moving forward. Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed.
Got our first look at a live-action mythosaur this year in Mandalorian Season 3.
At least it's eyeball.
Right, at least it's eyeball. RFR doing, as I mentioned earlier, 2 live streams a week. That's something we may never see again. We'll see.
That was unprecedented.
That really was. And it was
a lot of fun, too.
It really was a lot of fun. It was pretty crazy. The May the 4th this year was not great. I mean, we got the Visions Volume 2, which was kind of a meh from both of us. Really, I just didn't have, maybe it was because of all the Star Wars content. I just didn't quite have the bandwidth for it. I just kind of inconsequential. Young Jedi Adventures, which I'm really, my kids are aged out of something like that, so I don't really have a connection to it. Would love to hear from some of the younger parents that have kids that are of the right demo. Are they enjoying it? We'll see. It seems to be going strong. And what else do we have? You know what? One of the losses how could I forget this one? Paul Rubens. Pee Wee Herman, but also has his stamp in Star Wars as RX-24. Big moment, as was talked about earlier, Part 5 of Ahsoka Shadow Warrior, Anakin Skywalker as Hayden Christensen back in the role, and there with Snips. So it was quite a year when you look back on it. It was quite a year. I think there was something there for everybody. For all stripes of Star Wars fans.
As
we look
the thing is, again, there's something for everyone, all types of Star Wars fans. Whatever happened to us just being one fan base? Why does it have to be different types of Star Wars fans? Andor's not for the Baby Yoda crowd. There are just so many other examples.
More. Maybe we can come together more in 2024.
I would like to see that. I think the brand, more than anything, needs better consistency across the board.
Yeah. So that we're not looking at, that's right, as you said, that's the Andor crowd. That's the Baby Yoda crowd. Yeah.
There's the High Republic crowd. There's the animation crowd. There's, just let's get consistency across the board.
Yeah. Let's do it.
Chewie, get us out of here!
All right. Well, thank you very much to everybody that's been hanging out with us on this very special live stream. If you want more of this type of treatment, you got to check it out over at patreon.com and search for Rebel Force Radio, or patreon.com/Rebel Force Radio, or go to the official website, rebelforceradio.com, and click on the Patreon banner. All the details are there of how you can participate. This podcast was live streamed to the Rebel Force Radio Patreon supporters exclusively. So we appreciate all of them hanging out with us. We also appreciate this guy, Tyler Page, for being here with us. Hey, buddy. Thanks so much for always being here. Happy holidays to you. Happy New Year. Looking forward to 2, maybe 3 seasons of after shows next year in 2024. Of course, you'll be a big part of those.
Yeah, I feel like, the early parts of this year were so crazy with the after shows. And then smack dab in the middle of it in April, you had Celebration Europe.
Celebration Europe, yeah, right.
And that was a 3-hour show that you guys ran. And that was one of the best, in my opinion.
Still not as long as the pairing beers with Star Wars streaming series on RFR Q&A.
Yeah,
I think
we'll have to bring beer to the next celebration recap show.
I can't have RFR Q&A as the record holder for the longest show. Come on.
Oh, sure you can.
Do that.
Sure you can. That's fine. That's fine.
We did do some telethons, some marathons back in the day. Remember the coast to coast days?
Oh my God, no, those are long shows.
They are long shows.
Those might have approached the old 4-hour mark, if I remember correctly. So.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's great. All the content is awesome. And Tyler, thanks very much for being a part of the RFR family. Appreciate you and the sacrifice of time that you give us as our call screener and our program observer. And you still have the best beard in all of Star Wars.
Thanks.
What's the name of that bearded senator from the prequel trilogy?
Fang Czar.
Fang Czar, that guy, yeah. He's got nothing on you. Nothing on you. All right, buddy.
Awesome.
Thanks a lot.
See you guys.
Appreciate it. All right. So for more Rebel Force Radio...
final thoughts.
Yeah, you got final thoughts.
No.
Do you want to give final thoughts on the year that was 2023?
No.
Are you prepared?
No, that'd be too much. How about final thoughts? This is my favorite action figure. It's Boba Fett. All right, enough.
All right. Well, as we've been talking about throughout the program, RFR and Patreon is a great way to get more Rebel Force Radio in your life. Weekly full show video, exclusive podcasts like the Q&A, like the RPG that you can't get anywhere else. You can find those on Patreon, patreon.com/Rebel Force Radio. And above all, you've heard from so many of the folks that are supporters of us on Patreon. Great group of people. If you want to hang out with people like that, you can do that at patreon.com/Rebel Force Radio. $1 gets you in the door, $1, and you're listening to those exclusive podcasts, so check it out. We also have free content available on YouTube, so check us out over there on YouTube. And as you're watching these videos, I can't stress enough, please subscribe, please leave a comment. It really does help all those algorithms, and we want to be recommended as people are looking at Star Wars content. We want to be referred to, and those comments help a lot. So please like, subscribe, comment, all of that stuff. We are on all of the socials. We're back on X, by the way. Much to Mac's chagrin. You know, he thought he had one less platform to post the shows to, and I find a way to to reactivate our account.
It's not the posting. It's the general sense of grief that the Twitter audience loves to supply. Even if it's not directed at me, I experience grief when I open Twitter. That's all I'm saying.
All right.
Or X or whatever the F you want to call it. I could use letters too.
We need to change that for Max. So make sure that anything you post there on X, formerly known as Twitter, is full of rainbows and unicorns, and send it to Jimmy Mac's attention over there.
Make it good.
The website for all things and everything Rebel Force Radio is, of course, rebelforceradio.com. So check it out. It keeps you up to date on what's going on here in the world of RFR. But if you want to help us out, the best thing you can do, it costs you nothing. It's doing what you're doing right now, which is listening to the show, also referring your friends and your family to it. You're going to be gathering together over the holidays. You'll be talking about the fallout of Ahsoka. You'll be talking about Dave Filoni as the new head cheese there when it comes to content. And tell them that you found a great Star Wars podcast. You listen to a great Star Wars podcast, Rebel Force Radio, and hopefully they'll start listening. So we love to have those referrals. We love to have you subscribe to the podcast if you can through your podcatcher of choice. We love to have you leave a review. A lot of these podcatchers allow you to leave a review. We have one very simple rule, please.
Rainbows and unicorns.
All right, we'll see you one more show in the year 2023 next week. We'll be back next week for a whole lot more RFR. So thank you all so much. Special thanks to our Patreons, all of our callers, Tyler Page. It's been a lot of fun looking back at the year that was 2023. More RFR next week. So until then, for Rebel Force Radio, I'm Jason.
I'm Jimmy Mac.
And remember,
The Force will be with you, always.
wham.